Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've decided to do a guy's guide for E38. With that I mean like all the new people, sort of the ones born in late 2000 or sort of in 2000-ish, are prepared to buy one of these classic icons, and they always sort of get asked, what should I look out for? So in this video you'll see what exactly you should look out for every specific model. We got 728, we got 735, we got 740i, and we got 750i. They all have facelifts. I'm also gonna tell you what's the difference between facelift and pre-facelift, what's engine-wise, like all the little bits and nigglies, like you name it, you know. Because pretty sure, like, I can't say I know 100%, but I know 99% in and out these cars. If you're not familiar with me, I sort of deal with these for past, what, 9 years maybe, and own currently maybe, to be honest I need to count, but maybe 20 or maybe 18. Anyway, doesn't matter. I broke these a lot, maybe nearly 100, maybe 90-ish. Sort of took off the road the ones which wasn't worth saving, wasn't worth nothing at the time, and they're just literally rust buckets, and was at the time, maybe not now, at the time was worth nothing, you know. Like, they were the ones which saved these ones and many others around the UK. So stay tuned, sit down comfortably, and let's start with the 728. So the 728, this particular one is a 728 year 2001, the year they actually finished the build. I think it was July. And the specific model we got M52 B28 TU. That is 2.8 inline 6, 193 bhp, something like that. So in the I'm talking about the UK, the lowest one you can get a 2.5 TDS, which is in Europe, and I think it's only in Europe, because as you know, in the UK we don't have a diesel version. I'm really not sure why they didn't make the diesel version for the UK. Maybe my theory is because it has a steering box, and obviously maybe there were, at the time it was like complications to build diesel version, I don't know, sort of diesel version, because obviously we had the steering box. Basically there wasn't enough room for turbo, or like, I don't know, for some reason they didn't produce diesel versions in the UK. But we had all sort of petrol models, the ones the US didn't had, for example the 3.5 and the 2.8. It sort of feels like, oh, let's leave it that for peasants. Maybe, but end of the day, this engine is very reliable. With that I mean, like, no issues with the engine itself. The main things which you need to look after is cooling system, because obviously the block and the head is alley, and the breather pipes. The breather pipes, which obviously is behind the sort of underneath the intake manifold, and obviously helps to breathe the engine, so basically the oil doesn't go too dry, if that makes sense. Because I've seen a case where the oil was so dry it damaged the guides on the 2.8, which is very rare, and like this was one example of, I don't know, all the rest of it I've sort of seen, you know. Other thing is basically the only internal issue with these engines is the Vanos itself, which is like DIY person could do it. You don't really need to be, there is no rocket science, you know, like it has sort of timing goes out slightly, and that's why on the computer it shows camshaft sensor errors. Obviously all you need to do is reset the timing, change the Vanos seals, and you're good to go. Apart from that, coolant system, breather pipes, Vanos itself, the engine is literally reliable as 2.5 TDS, which literally I can run on biodiesel. Anyway, so nothing much to, well, nothing else to add. Maybe the MAF sensor does go once in a while, but apart from that, just look after it and it will look after you. So the 3.5 M62 TU, with the TU I mean Vanos engine, because between 96 and late 98 they produced the non-Vanos version. That means he was literally just without Vanos, but the facelift models came with the Vanos model, Vanos sort of variable valve timing. So as you can see, this is the 3.5, that one's the 4.4. Have a look, what's the difference? There is literally zero difference. Like if you look it from sort of this angle, there is one slight difference where you can notice what's the difference between 3.5 and 4.4. That is the MAF sensor. As you can see, this one is smaller, that one's much bigger. The rest of the engine bay is exactly the same. It's literally the internals are smaller than 4.4. So if I'm talking about the 3.5, that means I'm also in the same time talking about the 4.4, because it's exact, as I said, exactly the same. So same issues, same, like, as I said, it's the same engine, just externally 4.4, bigger pistons, different crank, and that's obviously what it makes it 4.4 instead of a 3.5. So the question is, why they made the 3.5, why they just didn't do the 4.4? My guess, well, I don't know specifically why, but my guess is sort of maybe emissions related, maybe it's cheaper to run. Although in my experience, this one is running cost, I would say, I'm talking about miles per gallon, is very similar to 2.8 and same as a 4.4. I might say, but the power difference between the 2.8 and 3.5 is completely different. This is a V8 where it's like, you feel it's sort of torque is bigger and the car itself feels completely different, but it does in the same time feels a bit underpowered. But I'm talking about the year 2021. I'm not talking about year 2010 where that felt much sort of, I was all right, you know, like I couldn't complain. But in today's standards, like, come on, even 1000 bhp, I don't know, cars, M5s, M3s, whatever, you know, that's it. They don't impress people anymore, because we're in that stage where sort of we got everything, you know, like we experience pretty much everything. Now we need just the flying cars and then we'll go wow, you know. But in today's world, you know, you just need to realize, like, there is a sort of acceptance where you could drive a sort of A to B car and where you can drive A to B much quicker, you know. But end of the day, the law is the law, which obviously you can't overturn or do anything about it. It's just, it's 70 miles per hour tops, you know. Like, at the end of the day, it's your decision if you're gonna go above. So from A to B, sort of overtaking the 3.5 is amazing, and I literally can't complain. But it's just depending what sort of car you want at the time and what's available at the time. But obviously the 740 is better and all that stuff, but this is one of them cars, like, why not, you know? Like, it still will be better than 2.8, like, any day. Like, if you're gonna say, let's say that one's better spec but this one's 3.5, I would probably still use the 3.5 one, because spec I can upgrade, but engine original is original end of the day. So you will ask, what's the issues with these? There's literally a couple of words: the guides, the timing chain guides, which usually goes, depending where you live and what climate you live, in my experience they go between 120 and 150,000 miles. That's the most sort of common mileage where the guides actually trigger to snap. And as you know, they're from plastic, and hot cold doesn't actually help for plastic. As soon as you touch it a bit, it just might snap. So that's what main thing on these engines are. Obviously coolant system, maybe you can have a vacuum leak there or there, but like nothing high-minded, blowing, you name it, you know. It's nothing complicated to fix, you know. It's very easy to work on, especially when you take the rad out. Literally you got all the axles at the front and don't need to take any sort of heavy parts or anything. Literally very easy to work on. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's same as the 4.4. As I said, these are exactly same engines, and apart from that, nothing common or big issues with it. Obviously Vanos noise itself, which have that slight sort of knocking noise on the higher mile engines, but as again, like, change the seals, or they're expensive brand new ones. They're about 450 each. You have one per each side, but you can change the seals on it if you got a special tools, which seals alone is about what, 30-40 quid, and special tool is about 150, and that's it. Bit of a picks, change the seals, and job done, you know. You can do it in the same time along with the timing chain guides, and job done. The car, literally, if the coolant system is up to date, the car is gonna go without any issues, I swear. The sort of legendary M73 TU, or just M73, the V12 5.4. What can I say? This car, this engine, like, I'm talking 750s, like, overall. How to describe? To be honest, if I would be filthy rich, I would sort of hire a driver, chauffeur, and I just sit at the back, because this is the passenger car. The rest of the cars are driver's car, but this is the passenger car, trust me. Also, I love the way it drives. Is like, it's about the smoothness and everything. As I said, when you drive these, you want to switch the radio classic on, just chill. You don't want loud music, you don't want to hear, you don't care about the problems. You literally just sit down, chill, and literally cruise along, especially with the 16s. Self-leveling suspension, everything on this car feels amazing. Why I'm saying this, because, well, this is how I feel when I drive this. Like, I remember seeing a video where one guy drove in Italy Alps, sunroof was open, like some classic radio was on, and I've literally felt the way he felt in the video, because it was so amazing. I can literally imagine how perfect it was, you know. Like, that V12 is sort of, I'm talking about what, year 99, 2000. I just can't imagine how even it felt in back then. Even if it feels now so sort of smooth, so sort of, I'm literally speechless, you know. It's great, you know, like this is the car which is top of the top for passenger and the driver. But my personal experience, I would like to be in a passenger seat. So now I've explained how much I love the 750s. Let's focus the reliability on the V12s. Internally, none of them, not even the 2.8, 3.5, 4.4, the M73, 4.4, internally, nothing wrong. Like bottom end of the engines, they literally can go forever as long as you service them. It's just other stuff aside. For example, V12s, the most common is the CCV or PCV, whatever you call it, the back of the intake manifolds. It's same as the breather pipes for the 2.8, same as for the V8s, the back of the intake manifold, there is as well that CCV. It sort of lets the crankcase to breathe, let's put it this way. Obviously leaking valve cover gaskets, which in this case is very hard to change because you need to take the intake manifolds off, and there is, as you know, 2 screws per each inlet, so we got 24 screw sort of bolts together, and it's very awkward to get to, you know. And yeah, again, cooling systems, you know, these engines, all the BMW engines love cooling system. I'm not sure, probably this one the same, runs on the same temperature as the V8s, because the V8s, the running temperature is 105 degrees. Also, you can change the thermostat to 88 degree one, and obviously run without the viscous fan, but that's sketchy on a hot summer day. What else? On all E38s, especially the facelift ones, well, I would say mainly the facelifts, same as the E39s, they have an ABS issue with ECU. One of the soldering inside comes loose and obviously triggers the whole ABS system. But as I said, easy repair, DIY, 6 bolts, replace it. You can send it off for sort of repair, and you can get a lifetime warranty with it. DSC pre-charge pump is quite common on these as well, only facelifts, and the pre-facelift V12, which is only 98 because they got different one. As soon as you reach like 20 miles per hour, all the ABS light comes on and the fault code comes up as a pre-charge pump fault, something like that. But again, that's easy to replace, and I would say that's about it, you know. Like engine wise, none of them I would say are catastrophic failures, you know. Comparing to let's say the E46 one, I think it was the ones after 2002, the 4-cylinder ones, which is like absolute nightmare. Such a don't want to even talk about it, you know. Same as if you're comparing to 2-liter diesel N47s with a common timing chain snapping, you know, like where let's say V8s, let's say the guide goes, you can still, well, not recommending to drive it, but you can still do another 10-15 miles, you know, like, and it's still going to be all right. But obviously chains are going to rub against the cover, and obviously the swirl metal particles are going to drop inside the sump. But you can clean that up, put a new timing chain, and off it goes. It doesn't causes the actual engine to damage. So as I said, even if something goes on it, it's easily fixable, you know. Like, it's not stupidly expensive. I would say the job itself might be expensive, especially on the V8s. On the V12s, the timing chain guides or chain, never ever had any problems. Only once, and even then I'm not sure if it was done by someone else or something else, but that was once per all these 100 cars, you know. M62s, TUs, yeah, they're coming with them timing chain guides, but do it once per life and that's it, you know. Like, I can't, it's about 1,500 pound job, supply and fit, more or less, depend what brand you want to go, what sort of parts you want to change along, but roughly that's the figure you're looking at. But V12s, as I said, engine itself, no issues whatsoever, you know. Like, make sure the coolant system is up to date, all the fans and coolant is fine, you know, you're good to go. Like, no comments, you know, regards to this. Nothing else to add, nothing else to take off. Excellent engine, love it. Thing to add on these V12s, common thing is these intake boots might split or perish, same as other rubber, might some vacuum leak. That's about it, you know. Like, what you would expect from 25-year-old car, like rubber is very common to split with the age, especially when it comes to hot cold, you know, it comes back. That's why it's quite easy to spot, and to be honest, it's not that expensive to replace. I think it's about 30-40 pounds from BMW to replace. Talked about the 728, talked about the M62s, obviously M73 as well. To be honest, engine wise, if we're talking about all of them cars, it's the most common things is literally whatever something to do with the plastic, you know, rust itself. But yeah, just look, when you're looking to buy one, when you open the bonnet, make sure you sort of look for age-related marks which being sort of left aside, you know. Like, when you open the bonnet, you see the pipe splitting or half cracked or something like that. Well, obviously oil leaks and stuff like that. That's sort of thing you're looking at when buying it, and you think the previous owner didn't care about it, you know. That's the most common thing to look under the bonnet. So let's talk about the rust. Yes, being a 25-year-old car, rust is the main issue on these cars, unfortunately. But depending where it was living pretty much most of its life, if it's been somewhere in highlands, wherever too much snow, obviously salt on the roads, expect to be rusty. Like, for example, this car being, I'm not sure, most of its life or sort of couple years it's been in Scotland, and I would say from all of these, this is the most rusty one. Not let's say chassis itself, but I would say like pretty much the common places, you know, like, and basically let me show you the common places overall where you should expect to look. So the wings, obviously bolt on part. Easiest way, obviously, see if there is any, obviously, along the arch, and the most common one is the one behind the side skirt, but the pre-faces doesn't have a side skirt, so you might just see behind the plastic itself. Doors, the bottom of the doors are very common, not actually in the middle, but along the strip, especially where the strips, the water sits inside. That's the most common thing on these. The back wheel arch is on the edge of the wheel arch here, and on the edge on the outside here. These the most common places on the wheel arches. And at the boot, we got two common rust spots literally there. Why? Because there is two rubber bungs where the water sits constantly, and as you can see on this car, we have a one side already rust there, and obviously it just keeps spreading, you know. These the most common places on the E38s. As you can see, literally after rain, you can clearly see the water still sits between the bumper and the chassis, sort of. It's literally sitting there for hours or days, and obviously this place is most sort of common thing to rust. Same as behind the number plate bulbs, because this bit is plastic. Along here is quite common to rust. What else? And I think that's about it. Obviously underneath, side skirts, you can't really see on the facelift models what's happening sort of behind the side skirts, but on the pre-facelift there is no plastic side skirts, so you clearly can see if there is any previous repairs or if there is any rust coming out at all, you know. So let's talk about the interiors and prices. Why interior and prices? Because if you want to buy one of these today in 2021, interior does matter. So here we have a 7 to 8, sort of, it's Orient blue, but standard box, like has style 32 inch wheels, but it's box standard. So current value specifically maybe for this car is not a lot, but overall 7 to 8 goes today between 1500, 3.5, I would say tops. The maybe low, super low individual mileage would go more, but although the rest of them is completely different level. I'm also talking about the 735s. If it's box standard, like not low mileage or whatever, it's as well between 1500 to 3.5k, you know. But if you're gonna buy one of them, it means, and you are like, let's say true enthusiast, and you sort of love the car and you want to improve it, trust me, literally, I swear to God, you're gonna spend thousands. Like by the time you finished with it, you maybe gonna end up close to 10 grand. Because if you want to upgrade the interior, put options in it, let's say the best style, sort of best OEM wheels, is just gonna spend shitloads of money. So that's the reason why the price difference is between 1500, 20k. You know, like you can have a, as I said, 1,500 pound car. There you can have a 750 with a low mileage up to 20 maybe, you know, like all depends maybe who used to belong or who used to sort of where it was all its life, you know, rust wise condition, all it matters, you know, like it's, these cars are not left and right anymore, you know, like all the sort of scrappers or the ones which wasn't worth it, they already taken off road, but there is still some out there which probably will be scrapped in future, but all the good ones will be running and just owned by enthusiasts and people sort of, and you probably will not gonna see one for sale, the one you actually love and which actually is worth the money asking price. The reason why I'm saying is because I've recently sold one 740IL, and the guy was sort of looking the examples which was for sale, and he said they all were dogs. They all sort of was selling by traders, and they sort of knew nothing about it, because you probably very rarely find enthusiasts selling his Prado Joy unless it's sort of some sort of a circumstances, you know, like, because for example me, I would only sell the car, the one I know it's like 100% good, like no issues whatsoever, it's good spec, like it ticks most of the boxes. Interiors are more one of the reason sort of reflecting the price. If you have a contour seats, individual interior, that's probably one of the reasons why this one will be more expensive than that one. If you're gonna see the advert saying fully loaded, that's probably bullshit, because there's probably only a couple in the world, maybe 10, 20 worldwide, which is actually literally fully loaded, because the option list on these are massive, you know, like there is a different wood trims, there is like different type of seats, there is like different color seats, like you can have a picnic tables at the back, you can have a fridge, you can have blinds, you can have speakers on the roof, you can like the list goes on and on, you know. But overall, let's say you just basically need to see what you're looking for. With these cars, you don't need to rush. You basically need to do your research, you know, like take your time, see what options it has, what's been done, what's not, you know, like, because as I said, it'll play back in the future. If you're gonna buy box standard, and if you really love the car, you probably will want a decent interior in the future, which is probably gonna cost you another grand or maybe more, depending what type of interior it is. So let's talk about the exterior, the most common things which you should look out for when you actually come in and seeing the car. So along the front, loose grills, that's usually quite common because it's very hard to take them out without actually breaking the clips. These washer jets, they quite common, sort of pop out or go missing. Obviously the fog lights, obvious thing. Plastics underneath, always make sure if there is all 100% plastics all underneath, because the cars without plastics, they usually bodged. Like 8 times out of 10, if there is a plastics missing underneath, that means the rest of the car is pretty much shabby condition. Another thing, the scuffle panel, it's sort of plastic trim on the bottom of the windscreen. That's quite common to perish, which is about 100 quid from BMW. This trim, common to perish, about 50 pounds from BMW. The trims along the side, both sides, they are sort of common to bend, scratch, sort of gone missing. And these are usually things where people are looking on the forums, like little bits and pieces, you know. Maybe some of them people are probably gonna not bother it, but every single detail does matter at the end of the day. And underneath, the most common thing is fuel tank. Yes, these cars has a metal fuel tank, and as you know, they are common to rust. Let's put it this way. You're probably gonna change it once per life as well. Like when it comes to 20-year-old tank, it's probably gonna leak sooner or late. But if you're gonna replace it now, it's probably gonna last you for another 20 years. Depends if you rust treated or anything like that. And obviously depending where you live. But the rest, like say suspension, I mean, it's wear and tear item. So any ball joint, any sort of rubber can sooner or late go wrong, you know, like, so easy DIY, nothing, no sort of rocket science to replace it, so front and back. Also back shocks is quite difficult because you need to strip the back bench to access the top mounts, and they're also quite common to seize on the bottom of the hub. So that's the most tricky I find, the back suspension to change. Overall, that's it. Interior wise, being as well like 20-25-year-old car, the common thing is saggy headliner. I've seen many BMWs recently, especially old school stuff, where they have a saggy headliner and quite sort of pain in the butt to change it, you know, like you need to take it to a trimmer, like difficult. You probably need to take the front seat out to take the actual headliner off. But apart from that, like, you would look any sort of bits and pieces, like all obvious stuff, you know. And obviously, depending what options it has, see if actually everything is there. Let's say you got a picnic tables at the back, make sure they all fold, mirrors work, and let's say back heated seats works, all the back ventilation works. You have a, let's say if you have a entertainment package at the back, make sure the radio works. And I probably don't expect this phone to work unless you're running a 2G SIM card, but I highly doubt anyone actually uses it. But this one actually works, to be honest. Yeah. What else? What else? Yeah. If you have a blinds, make sure the quarter blind works properly. They are quite common to snap. And yeah, just look for wear and tear items. This plastic on the side of the seat usually quite common to snap, because if you know, when you step out of the car, you sort of lean on it and you break the clip. And that's about it. I mean, overall, you know. So if you have a sub at the back of the parcel shell, it means you got DSP system. It's called, I think, digital sound processor. So it's sort of top of the top sound system in E38. And the most common thing on these are blown speakers. But don't worry, there is plenty repair kits online where you can repair the speakers, because you can't actually replace the speaker with aftermarket, because I think it's 8-ohm one. And so for the best quality and sound, you probably just need to replace the membrane and obviously reinstall the speaker, and it's good to go. If you don't have a sound coming from the radio, and if you have a sat nav, that's probably the BM24 module, the actual radio amplifier, which is quite common as well. If you don't have a, let's say, picture on the screen, that's probably the TV module or sat nav module, because you got loads of modules on the side of the boot. And yeah, pretty much that's it on the entertainment side. So this was sort of introducing, I could go days and days talking about the all common little bits and pieces, but this is the most obvious thing, obviously, when you come in and buying the E38, and the one, obviously, the stuff you need to look out for, you know. But hopefully this video was sort of informative, let's put it this way. And if you have any sort of questions, and if you're looking to buy one, please leave the comment below what you would like to know, and I'll do my best to answer, to leave under comment to obviously help you out. Because as I said, there is many other small little bits and pieces where you can actually, which you can actually look or improve, or like, let's say, to prevent for you, basically to prevent more for you to spend too much what it's actually worth, you know. Like, the list goes on and on and on. Like, if you think, let's say this one would be advertised for £10,000 and that one would be advertised for £2,000, there is obviously a reason why, you know. Like, maybe this one is one of 50, that one's one of 3,000 Fox standard 7 to 8, where this could be 750 with a super high individual color and stuff like that, you know. There is obviously a reason why these are so different in prices, you know. Like, you can have a 20 grand car and then you can have a £1,000 car, you know. So all that adds up, you know. But let's say if you're looking one for £20,000 more or less, you must look in 2021, it must be super mint, and like the stuff I mentioned before, it must be excellent condition, and I'm guessing it should be low mileage, you know. Also, I've seen car with the 250,000 miles with the sort of the condition was super B, like I wouldn't tell it's done 250,000 miles, but hey, it had the 40,000 pound worth of receipts. That obviously explains why it was in super B condition, you know. Stuff like that matters, and hopefully this video sort of gives you a slight idea what to expect from these cars in 2021. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Leave the comment below, and I'll see you next time.